last shot is called the Martini shot, even by people who don't drink martinis.
Well, first of all, through God, all things are possible, so jot that down.
This town needs an enema.
That shit is the Mad Notes, written by God herself and handed down to the greatest band in the world.
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live!
All right, we're live. Welcome to the Martini Shot Hangout, everybody. Today is the 1st of the month, June 1st, so make sure you pay your rent. I'm your host, Chris. So I wanted to talk about a few things today. Netflix had their big event called Tudum, I believe, where they unveiled looks at the upcoming final season of Stranger Things. We got a little look at season 2 of Wednesday. They also unveiled a trailer for Happy Gilmore 2 and Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. So there was a lot brewing there. There's a lot to talk about. And then also something I found interesting is their trouble brewing for the Fantastic Four First Steps film after its initial screening. There's been some bad scuttlebutt coming out. And lastly, the box office seems to continue to trend in the right direction. So I'm going to talk about that with my guest. But before I introduce him, go ahead and smash that like button, share the stream with a friend. I'm live at 5 every Sunday. And joining me today to talk about these stories and more is a friend of the channel, Derek Bowder, a.k.a. DannyDorito23. Derek, what's good, man? How are you today?
How's it going? I'm doing great. Happy to be here. I had a great time last time speaking with you, and so looking forward to chatting it up. As you can see, I'm now at the house that I was talking about moving into last time. So
right, I was actually going to segue into that. I think last time we talked, you were just about to move into your new digs, and you also had a film that was kind of in the preliminary stages, and we talked just briefly about it backstage. But yeah, I wanted to get a little life update from you, man. How are things going? Where are things going? You know, where are we standing at? All that fun stuff.
yeah, so pretty much settled in at this point, which is a nice feeling. You know, both kiddos just had a birthday. So my daughter just turned 1, and then my son just turned 8. Just had his last day of 2nd grade. So summer break is in full swing. To update you on the film that I'm in early pre-production on, Always Ready, the military film that I talked about last time. I've been speaking to the Coast Guard about it and their involvement, and essentially it's the same issue that every beginner filmmaker runs into.
Sure.
Everything's kind of riding on, do you have funding? And so I was talking to you about kind of what I'm thinking about doing to kind of push that along. The investors that we've spoken to are really interested in a lot of it also has to do with who do we get attached, and same thing, is the attachment or the funding going to come first? But a big thing they've talked about is, I'm asking to direct, act, produce, edit. I wrote it. So they're a little hesitant about a first-time director with a budget like that. So I'm thinking about doing a very low-budget kind of like indie ghost story kind of movie in the vein of like Presence, but not with that like point of view gimmick. Mm-hmm. I guess it wasn't a gimmick. I thought they actually handled that pretty well. I enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, I did too.
But something very atmospheric, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Something low-budget, atmospheric that really just focuses on story. And so I'm breaking ground on that. I have a treatment, and I'm going to basically try to make something for the least amount of money possible and see what I can pull off. Something that's about 80 pages. So that's going to be fun to write, gearing up for that. This week, I'm going to hit it hard. So
that's great, man. So is this, I guess, did you happen to watch the Robert Rodriguez interview when he was on Joe Rogan by any chance?
I did. It was great.
Yeah. So I know that he was saying like El Mariachi was kind of like his warm-up tryout film. Like he didn't want that to go anywhere. So it seems like you're kind of taking that approach, but this is like your warm-up film to kind of give the studios or whoever's financially backing you a little bit more, what would you say, confidence in you. Because I know like it seems like you're being a jack of all trades, and they certainly don't want you to be a master of none when it comes to making a movie, because that sounds like financial disaster written all over.
Right. Yeah. And I don't blame them. I mean, I see a lot of first-time filmmakers really shoot for something ambitious, and I mean, it's hard to make something ambitious as your first film. So I think this would give me the opportunity to not only gain the experience, but to really find my voice as a director. And speaking of that, I've also spoke to you about it. I got hired to direct a $10,000 short film that's shooting next month. So I've been gearing up for that, and that's been a blast. So
Yeah, I saw you post a little bit about that on Instagram. Are you allowed to kind of talk about what it's about and stuff like that, or is it still kind of in that beginning phases sort of deal?
So, I mean, it's shot listed. We were doing stunt choreography. Obviously, I couldn't really post about that because it would give away like some of the action
Yeah,
stuff
sure.
in it. But it's a 10-minute short set in the New Mexico wilderness. Essentially, two workers at a hunting retreat discover that they both have similar hobbies, and it gets a little it gets a little crazy. It's definitely going to be something that I think people that liked Pollo Loco will get a kick out of. It's
Okay.
definitely dark. So yeah, again, atmosphere. That's really what I'm trying to do. So
Okay. So is there like, when you're taking these, you're going from the creator to filmmaker route, which is like the Philippou brothers did. Did you see Bring Her Back by any
I
chance?
did. I got to see it 2 weeks early, and
Okay.
I was happy to see how good it was. It was definitely
Yeah.
impressive for a sophomore film. So
Yeah, it's those two guys are really impressive, especially if you followed any of their content. I've heard someone one time a while ago, and it's just stuck with me ever since. But they said that they're basically like the Australian version of Terrence and Phillip. And so because they're just like kind of goofy, fun-loving guys. They seem to have a good time. But when you watch them make a movie, I've sat back through both films, and Bring Her Back seems to be a lot more divisive than Talk to Me was, especially because of the way the movie ends. I don't want to give away anything for anyone who hasn't seen it, but the ending is quite divisive. But watching the movie, the whole time I'm watching it, I'm going, man, these guys seem like seasoned pros. Like, it's hard for me to wrap my head around that they've only made 2 films. It's really impressive, really an impressive thing. And I remember when I watched your short film that you directed and starred in, I was like, you got something there. And like you said, the atmosphere seems to be kind of your thing. Is there a direction you want to go with your directing? Do you kind of feel like more the drama, thriller sort of thing suits your particular skills better? Or are you just kind of trying to get into it and see where it takes you?
I think that my content definitely strays more towards comedy. And so
Sure.
when it comes to filmmaking, I definitely found myself wanting to do stuff that's more dramatic. Not that I don't want to do something comedic. I definitely have some treatments set aside and some rough drafts that are more comedy films. But I feel like when I see a good drama and it's a filmmaker's first attempt at making a feature, if they can pull off a drama, you can pretty much do anything, you know? And I think trying to do a horror film that's more grounded in drama like Presence is definitely, from a storytelling standpoint, I guess more impressive than doing like a no budget hangout film. I feel like after Clerks, everybody was like, oh, that's the move. Do something that's got that hangout style that's really forgiving in terms of editing and stuff, where it's kind of like a fly on the wall. And this is definitely it's going to take some planning to execute it at the budget we're doing. But the people that I'm planning to work with on it, they're all seasoned pros from like the reality TV world, and so they're really good at like running and gunning, I guess is the way to put it. Drama is
especially.
And I think drama is definitely at the root of a lot of the stuff that I've been writing recently. So
Interesting. That's cool. Yeah, I think once upon a time, maybe in 10 or so years ago, the horror film was really the easiest way to get your foot in, because studios wanted to see how effective you could make a horror movie. And if you can make that, then you can kind of, there's people like, even like Spielberg kind of started out in the horror genre, and then, Del Toro, but he's always kind of stuck around that. Peter Jackson, he was doing like nothing but schlocky horror films about Lord of the Rings. But I think maybe with your ghost story and the drama, that could really kind of open some doors for you. So I'm excited for you, man. That's really exciting stuff. How has the film scene kind of been picking up in New Mexico? I've noticed, I'm from there, so I still got some buddies and stuff that are kind of in the industry out there, and it seems to be a lot more active since we last spoke.
Yeah, there's definitely I mean Dark Winds has been shooting season 4 here, so I think that's been the biggest thing going on right now, but there's a lot of indie features right now that have been casting, and there's a lot of studio features that have been not paying people, which I don't know if you've seen that. That's been interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. Do you have more information on that, or is it just kind of one of those things where you briefly read about it?
There's I forget the name of it, but Lily Gladstone and Bryan Cranston have this like espionage thriller that shot out here,
Uh-huh.
and I guess they went over budget by $1 million. And of course, the people who aren't getting paid for their last week of work are all the New Mexico locals.
Of course, the
So
crew, right?
yeah, that I actually auditioned for 2 parts in that, and so the people that got cast, they said they didn't get paid, so I'm like, I guess I'm glad it didn't work out because
Yeah.
they're saying it's one of those things where it might just never get finished if they can't figure it out. So yeah, I don't know. It's definitely not a good look.
No, it's not a good look, and I feel like they should make a little bit bigger of a deal out of it. Especially because like there's so much circulating now with the way kind of AI is going and just how the film industry seems to be on a downward trajectory. Those sort of stories that come out don't do it any favors.
Yeah, well, Horizon is a similar story. I know some of the people that worked on chapter 1 and 2, and
man, we could get into that, but that's a
yeah.
really interesting thing that's happening, and I feel like not enough people know about it or are talking about it.
Yeah, it seems like more stuff keeps coming out that it shows that it really was essentially the most expensive indie film ever made,
Yeah.
And so it has the same indie problems where I think there's like $300,000 that's still owed to people, but the second movie's still doesn't have a release date, and
yeah.
I think Netflix is trying to like take over it, but then the company who originally put up some of the money is like, well, what happens to what we did then? And it's just a huge thing. And then the Kevin Costner stuff that came out.
It wasn't Costner like leveraging his house and like a bunch of his own personal funds on this movie because it's a saga, right? It's supposed to be, I think, 4 movies in total.
Yeah, and they filmed the first 2.
Yeah, did they shoot a lot of that in New Mexico?
Yeah, all of it. Yeah,
all of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Where'd they shoot it?
Around Santa Fe. Yeah,
okay. That makes sense. Well, yeah, and so for those who aren't familiar, so Horizon Part 1, which I'm sure you saw it. I wasn't crazy about it. It felt like a really disjointed movie. But
should have been a TV show. Is what I
agree. And I had my review went pretty viral on TikTok with it. Where I was just saying like, hey, to me, it felt like a really disjointed movie. Like there's a few different storylines that are happening and there's no real cohesion to it. They just kind of show you highlights of each story. And then the movie ends with almost like what's coming up next in this whole series of movies. And you're like, what? Like, I still don't really know what's going on with the majority of the film. But I also said when I ended my review, I said, hey, but this is supposed to be a saga, it's supposed to be 4 movies. So maybe it'll come full circle and it will tie everything together where it will kind of show like the first season or the first movie was kind of important in setting a lot of this stuff up. But it bombed miserably at the box office. And then it's kind of gone into production hell, I guess you could say, to try to release the second one. Because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you might know better than me, but I think they showed the second one in like the Venice Film Festival or Cannes or something like that. And it seemed to be getting a lot better reaction than the original one. So from what I've heard is that people are saying that, this one is actually a lot better and it kind of starts bringing more things to light as far as the first one's concerned. So it's kind of a shame. I hope it gets to see the light of day or something happens with it, because Kevin Costner essentially like put up his own personal belongings. He left Yellowstone. He did a lot of stuff to try to get this series up and running. And it just has been met with a lot of barriers in the way to get it going anywhere.
Yeah, I kind of wish he hadn't like burned his bridge with Taylor Sheridan and done a mini series with him, because I think that would have been the better format for it. There's just too many storylines.
Yeah. I mean, Taylor Sheridan really is a talented guy. Yeah, I think right now he's bit off more than he can chew because some of his stuff is just a little too much, I think.
Yeah.
But if he could have got Sheridan somehow involved in this, I think it could have been one of the coolest Westerns that we've seen in the last 30 years or so.
Yeah, I agree. And to kind of speak about Taylor Sheridan and everything with that. Yeah, I mean, it seems like the reason why that whole Horizon drama started is because he's writing too many shows, and it kind of like delayed some stuff, and then Kevin Costner was like, well, I already have money invested in this, so I'm gonna go do my movie. And yeah, it seems like that it's kind of bit him in the butt, but
yeah, I think it bit all the parties involved because Yellowstone, the last season of Yellowstone really missed his presence. Like you could totally, it felt like a different show.
It did.
It felt like a different show. Unfortunately, because like I was really into I know Yellowstone's a pretty divisive show. Some people hate it, but I absolutely loved it. But then when that last season came out, I was like, no one's even watching it, talking about it. No one cares. It kind of lost all its momentum.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the way House of Cards ended, where it just kind of ended with a whimper.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Similar. There's definite similarities there. So I was going to talk. I've been noticing you've been posting a lot more content, kind of reviewing movies, talking about reactions to trailers and things of that nature. So I got. Let's see. There's a chat right here. Said I thought Mission Impossible 8 was good, but seemed a little disappointing, and the runtime was a little long. Only a 3.5 on Letterboxd. And yeah, I was curious what you thought about the new Mission Impossible. I agree with him. It was entertaining as hell movie, I thought, but I thought the movie just went way too much into exposition. There was like a gazillion MacGuffins in the movie. It was like there's this thing and then there's this thing, and it never. I didn't feel like it pushed the story forward a whole bunch. And I saw someone on Twitter, they posted something like, I still haven't met anybody who can describe to me what's happening in the very last scene of that movie. And I was like, yeah, it was a kind of weird way to end that movie. There was nothing sort of solid or conclusive about it. So yeah, what were your thoughts?
I honestly ate it up. My wife loved it.
Sure.
I think obviously it has its flaws, but I went into it knowing a lot of the kind of behind the scenes stuff, how they like essentially filmed a lot of the footage that's in this movie when they were making the first part, because it was supposed to be 2 parts. And so I think the fact that they were kind of pressured by like the studio to like make this the last one because the last one didn't do so well.
Didn't do too well, yeah.
I think the first act is definitely clunky in the way that it does it, but it worked for me. I thought it definitely had it had a lot to set up in order to make that second act as good as it is. And to speak kind of on like what that last scene is, obviously it's like a bookend, right? Because it starts out similar. But besides that, I think it was really just kind of like leaving the door open.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Let's see how well this movie does, and maybe we'll explore the option for another Mission Impossible.
Yeah,
movie.
I think if they do another one, it's going to be a handoff film. They're going to like hand the franchise off to like Glenn Powell or somebody, and maybe Tom Cruise. It will have a different. It'll have a more. I guess the stakes will be higher for his character because essentially this one felt like the stakes were just high for like the whole world. But
yeah. And I mean, the stunts in this one were probably the most insane out of all, which is saying something. I mean, there's some insane stunts, but I watched something about the plane scene where Tom Cruise was like losing consciousness and he couldn't breathe because when you see that wind hitting his face when he's on it, he said he was having a hard time breathing, so he had to like put his hand up and try to catch breaths from his arm blowing the wind over his head. So and apparently there's one time where like the crew couldn't find him and he passed out fully on that plane. So that dude's a madman for our own entertainment, which I'll always respect him for. But yeah, there was definitely so watching the Dead Reckoning Part 1, like I did a whole Mission Impossible watch through right before this one came out, and Dead Reckoning Part 1 is so good. It's so well paced. It sets everything up in such a great strategic way. But then like the second one, I noticed like especially with the White Widow stuff, they just completely like acted like none of that ever happened in the next movie. Like she was in it, the big player at the end of Dead Reckoning, and then in Final Reckoning they don't even mention her. So I was like, yeah, there was a lot of stuff that they didn't really address from the previous movie, and they were like going all the way back to the first one. There was a lot of exposition scenes that I was like, with Dead Reckoning, you're like, this is the perfect Mission Impossible movie. I'm kind of having to put the pieces together in this movie. And this one I felt like just held your hand throughout everything. But that was kind of my takeaway. But I thought it was a very watchable movie. I'll definitely rewatch it. I had a lot of fun with it. And those stunts towards the end were just fantastic.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it was supposed to originally be, part 1 and 2 and then the final reckoning, and they just kind of had to axe the middle film. That's what it feels like to me. And
I think you're onto something there.
Considering that, I think it could have been so much more clunky, and so I left really impressed by how they handled it, because it's one of those things where you never really hear the behind the scenes story, like what the plan is, and I don't know. I thought it was very satisfying though, the way that it kind of ended, except for that last, like you said, scene where it's kind of just a bookend and leaving it open kind of thing, but.
And when you see how everything played out, it didn't really make sense in the bigger picture. Why are they all just standing there? It's kind of odd. I
don't know. Maybe upon rewatch, I might lower it by half a star. I think I came out so just pumped up after seeing it. I think I gave it 4.5, but I agree. I think it's more like a 4.
Yeah. Well, and then especially because I did that rewatch recently, and Fallout is just
they kind of
is one of the best action movies I think ever made. I don't even know if they'll ever top it. How freaking good that movie is.
Yeah.
So I have someone here who said, "What are your thoughts on the Stranger Things trailer?" This is from Nikki Pantazias. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. So have you seen the trailer for it? Because I know I mentioned previously that Netflix had their Tudum thing, so I was interested. If you don't, maybe we could watch through a couple of these trailers here while we're on the.
I haven't seen all the trailers, but I did see that one, and I don't know if you can really call it a trailer.
It's not. It's more like hey, Stranger Things is coming out.
Yeah, we're not done with the VFX, so here's a little teaser kind of thing.
I do hate that Netflix is doing this thing where with the last season they broke it into 2 parts, but it was within a month. Yeah, this one they're breaking it into 3 parts like they did with Cobra Kai.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, this is such a. I just want it all to either come out at once or we've already waited so long for this last season to come out. The last season was what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, there's been a lot of jokes about that. Right? Yeah, if you look at the trailer, the comments are people saying, I had a kid when the second season came out, and they're graduating college already. Everybody's just leaning into the joke. But
I've seen a lot of the Grand Theft Auto and Stranger Things are on the similar trajectory sort of jokes. But yeah, I don't really have much to say about my thoughts are really just kind of, well, I guess we'll see. They didn't really show much. They showed a lot more with Wednesday. I watched that. They showed the first 6 minutes of it, and I was still. It's cool, I guess, but it's only the first 6 minutes of the first episode of the new season. So I wasn't not much of a look ahead.
I wasn't really crazy about the first season of Wednesday, if I'm being honest.
Really?
It felt like it was definitely more young adult kind of audience,
Sure. Yeah. I watched it with my daughter who's 12. And at the time, I think she was 10, 11. She was going into that phase where I could start showing her a little bit. So that was perfect for her. She absolutely loved that show. And I think because she liked it so much, I really enjoyed it. But you're right. Wednesday's not necessarily an adult show, but a lot of adults seem to like it. So,
Yeah, no, it's cool that it's definitely found its audience. And Tim Burton's great. I like his style and everything. I'm not into everything he's done, but I definitely think that Jenna Ortega is, perfect casting for this, and so good for them. Yeah,
Jenna Ortega is perfect casting. She seems to be having a hard time with the role with how famous it's made her, but that's kind of what you signed up for.
Yeah,
I don't have a ton of sympathy. I do, but I'm also just hey, that's comes with the territory. Sometimes these things pop off. So what other? Oh yeah, we were talking about Bring Her Back. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the movies that have come out this early part of summer. So Bring Her Back. What were your thoughts on that? I don't think I saw your review on this one.
I did. I saw it really early, so I feel like people weren't really aware yet.
I did see that. You saw the AMC Screen Unseen deal, right?
Yeah, they did Mystery Movie Monday at Regal, and I went and saw it. So it was a packed auditorium, and when when they popped up on the screen and were like, "Hey, surprise! We're showing this movie early." Everybody lost it, so it was really cool.
That is cool.
If it wasn't Bring Her Back, I honestly probably would have left. Like I was hoping it would be that. That's what the rumors were, and no, I think they definitely went darker, definitely grittier, and it was a very unnerving film, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
It was. How do you feel about the ending? No spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it, but yeah. How do you feel about that?
Felt a little like they were going for like a classic kind of ending. It wasn't really. It felt to me. I was just impressed with the fact that they turned around and made a film so quickly, and it wasn't like Talk to Me Too already. So, I like it. I think it works, but I could definitely see why some people might see it and be a little disappointed with how anticlimactic it kind of is.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, a little too convenient. I posted my review all over and on YouTube. A lot of people seem to hate it. They were like, this movie was a masterpiece until that wet fart of an ending. And I kind of understand it. When I watched it, I was like, it's not giving M. Night Shyamalan vibes. Like, it's not this twisty thing that no one saw coming. It just kind of fizzled out, I guess you could say. But for the most part, I thought that movie, like the acting is insane in that movie, and the tension, the psychological elements of the movie really, like I said, I think it showcased that these guys are more than just, flash in the pan YouTubers who had a cool concept and were able to capitalize on it. Like they showcase a lot of elements in their movies that seem like it's from a far more seasoned director. So that's
definitely.
So I'm going to be excited and kind of watch, what the new things that these guys have coming out.
Did you hear about the fact that they have two different, like completely different scripts for Talk to Me Too?
Yes, I did hear that, and they weren't sure which way to go with it, whether it's a continuation off the first one or just use different characters altogether.
And I think they put that information out to kind of gauge what people want. And it seems like most people are like, let's just do different characters, take us a different route. And I like that. I hope they do.
I do too. And I think if they could find a way to tie it into what do you remember what the main girl's name is and Talk to Me? I can't remember her name, but how it ends with that. If they could somehow find a way to kind of tie that into her, at some point in the movie, I think that'd be pretty cool. I
mean, should we talk about? I don't want to spoil anything. I mean, if you haven't seen Talk to Me at this point, what are you doing? It's pretty great. I really thought it was interesting how they showed where that other hand was. I want to see what's going on with that.
Yeah. I think if they take that from there, that would be really cool.
Yeah. Show us a different setting and country, and I would be down for a different language and all that. Just take us on a different ride. But yeah, I'm sure. I think it would be interesting to loop it back in somehow at the end, or we'll see. I'm excited though.
Yeah, I got from Tommy Slays here. He says, "Are you ready for Dangerous Animals this week? Is that going to be something you're going to check out?"
I will. I think I love shark movies, and obviously, I don't think anything's ever lived up to Jaws, and so I think it's an interesting idea to kind of throw a completely different kind of plot in there, where it's like serial killer and a shark movie together. Yeah. So yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, me too. I've heard some pretty fun things about it, and I like Jay Courtney. I think he's kind of been an underutilized actor, because that dude has some serious chops and some things that I've seen him in. So I'm glad to see him getting a little bit more work, a little bit more, I guess, recognition, because he's one of those guys where I'm like, man, he should be in more stuff, because he's a good guy. But I've heard some people say he's like a dollar store Tom Hardy, and I'm like, no, he's got a lot of things. Yeah, it's what an insulting thing to say, but yeah, no, I think that guy has something.
Who's the guy from Upgrade? I can't remember his name. To me, he reminds me of
Marshall Green, I think is his name.
Yeah. I think he's like the Walmart Tom Hardy. I love him. I think I thought he was fantastic in that movie, but that's who I think of when I think of Tom Hardy. And
there's that what's his name, Cosmo Jarvis, I think is his name, the guy from Shogun. He kind of gives
he kind of gives off those vibes too. Yeah, I agree with that. I want to ask you a question. Sure. I've seen a little bit of drama behind the scenes of these like early screenings and reviews. I don't know if we can really trust early buzz as much anymore.
So yeah, I was actually going to bring that up with you. You're talking about the ballerina one in particular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I made a John Wick video. You guys should check it out this past week where I ranked all the John Wick universe essentially. But at the end, I kind of dove into that drama a little bit. So what happened was basically the studio sent out I don't want to say feelers or something, but they basically were mandating that the only reactions they wanted people to see about the movie before June 4th were positive ones. And so, yeah, there's definitely a lot of drama. It seems like they're gatekeeping actual critical response to it. So, yeah, whenever it seems like people are so much easier on a lot of different movies these days that, you know, there's already a little bit of distrust there. But when you're doing something like that, where you're just going to make there's only going to be positive buzz about a movie before it comes out, that's pretty sus, I guess is the best way to put it. So
yeah, it seems like Hollywood is starting to really target more of like the hype men kind of content creators over people who actually like criticize film. And
especially like the TikTok thing. And I think, you know, you and I were talking about this backstage where, you know, like my reviews are pretty well put together. You know, they look nice, edited, stuff like that, a little bit more. I don't want to say flashy, but it's not like someone just used their camera and are just talking to the camera about talking to their phone about it with like some crappy green screen behind them or anything. That's no shade at anybody that does it that way. It's just the way I prefer to do my reviews. But it seems like the traction now is kind of going to that more naturalistic, you know, just shot it on their iPhone in 30 seconds and uploaded it mentality. But, you know, I could be pretty critical about some things, but I always try to find at least a good thing to say about the movie, because, you know, it's not a black and white thing. There's a lot of gray area in movies. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of things that it seems like with this, it's also just going to dissipate the nuance in film anymore. It's like, oh, this is the most awesome thing ever, blah, blah, blah. Because I've actually had some people reach out to me to be like, hey, can you give us a positive review on this? And I'm like, I can't promise you that. You know, if I don't like it, I don't want to waste people's time with it. I'll give my honest review. And if that's not for you, then that's cool, man. Like,
I've had that happen too.
You don't need to have me review it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, you know, working on these projects of my own has really kind of opened my eyes to how hard it is to get something greenlit, and like, you know, to see these big sequels and stuff just getting pumped out the way they are. It definitely makes me take a step back and want to be more critical of them, because it's so much money being thrown at them. You know, it's like every one of these movies, like Ballerina, that they make, it's like that could have been like 50 indie movies that they just spent, you know,
100%.
money on an IP instead. So,
and I think some of the early buzz hasn't been bad, but you don't know really how to gauge it. I'm actually seeing it on Wednesday, I think, this week, which is the day that the embargo
lifts. Yeah.
So I'm seeing it the day where like there's going to be actual honest reviews coming out. But I was always a little skeptical on it. First of all, it got pushed back like 5 times, which is never a good sign.
Right.
Second of all, it's directed by Len Wiseman, who did like the Underworld movies and the Total Recall remake. You know,
I did not know that.
He doesn't have the best track record when it comes to movies. It's not Chad Stahelski who did all the John Wick movies.
Right.
So, you know, there's some things working against it. Obviously, they've shown trailers with John in it, but I think John is probably in the movie for like 5 minutes or something. It's on this film. So, and it also has an over 2-hour runtime, which seems pretty long for an introductory John Wick spinoff. Maybe
I agree with that.
Some fluff cut out, but it's also what's his name? Lance Reddick. It's also, or is that his name?
I think so.
Yeah, that's his last movie, you know, because
R.I.P.
He passed away like right after making that. So, but yeah, you know, I mean, I love the John Wick movie, so I mean, obviously, I'm a pretty easy candidate. But did you ever watch the series that came out on Peacock, the Continental?
I did not, because I heard it was a bit of a snooze fest, and you know, not a lot of action. But
there isn't. Some of the action is really cool. But it's a lot of story that they crammed into that one. And, I put that in my review. I was like, you know, it's totally watchable. It's just, it's not memorable. It's nothing I'd ever go back and rewatch compared to like the first 4 John Wick movies. But I thought Mel Gibson's villain in that was the best of like any of the John Wick movies. And I
Really?
said, yeah, but I also said that one of the biggest faults that series has, outside of the like you said, it's kind of a snooze fest a little bit, is that John's not in it. And I think
Right.
that really shows you what this universe is without him, you know? So that's what I'm kind of concerned with the new one.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that first one's always gonna be my favorite, just because of
Okay.
how you could tell it was just like they're taking a chance on this
Yeah.
story, and everyone after that has just been kind of like, how do we like make it bigger and more
Yeah.
expensive, and
Yeah.
try to make more money. So I'm not surprised that their attempts to try and flesh out this franchise outside of being just a John Wick movie hasn't really worked yet. So
Yeah.
I mean, I would like this one to like be fun and everything, but
Sure.
it's the whole embargo thing definitely has me a little suspicious.
Me
So
too. That's yeah, it's really suspicious. And I'm curious to see where it goes because it got a lot of blowback. So I feel like there's probably going to be some people out there that just give this movie a negative review because of how much that kind of pissed people off. But I mean, we'll see. You know, I'm seeing it in a few days, so I'm definitely interested. But yeah, only time will tell. Okay, so I got this question. This is a pretty random one, but it says, what are some of your guys' worst horror movies of the 2000s? And he says Wicker Man, 13 Ghosts, Ghost Ship, and Valentine. So I don't know if you have any on the top of your head that you can think of, but
no, I would have to look some up. And
oh, do you remember there's an M. Night movie with Mark Wahlberg, The
oh, The
Happening?
Happening. Yeah, that was
Man.
a thinker. And I love
That
M.
movie's
Night.
become a cult classic with how bad it is. You know, it's just one of those it's so bad it's hilarious type movies. You're literally
Yeah.
running away from air. So
Yeah.
that movie definitely comes on the list. Yeah, I'll have to look up some too. If you have a list, you could share it here or maybe we can find some 2000s.
I mean, I was right in the early 2000s. I wasn't really into horror movies as much.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, it's definitely something that I got more into as an adult. But
I get that. I've always liked horror movies, but I think like right now, not enough people appreciate it. But right now, we're really in a pretty much like a golden age
yeah,
of horror.
yeah, I agree. I definitely think that what do they call it? Elevated horror.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely been the new thing. So
I remember Valentine. I remember it, but I don't remember a thing about it.
yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, I'd put a lot of the Resident Evil movies up there too, just
Yeah.
because I'm a big fan of the game. And then some of
Yeah.
those movies are just, whew. Let's see.
Yeah, people seem to like that Orphan movie, right?
Yeah, Orphan was cool. Definitely not one of the worst ones. What do we got here? Jeepers Creepers. That was, a lot of people crap on the. I don't know if you ever saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, the one with Jessica Biel in the early 2000s.
No, but
I think-
I've heard that there is like a cult following to that one.
Yeah, so I think at the time, I remember when it came out, I think Roger Ebert, he was still alive. He gave it like a 0 stars. He said it was just like a disgusting, soulless movie or whatever. But I actually think it holds a candle up to the original. And I that used to be a hot take of mine, but now it seems to be more and more people are saying that these days. I think it's awesome. I also think the Friday the 13th remake in 2009 was awesome too.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one.
Yeah, and a lot of the horror guys that I've had on, like Matt from Mad Blood and Cody Leach, they both love those movies. So I was like, oh, I'm glad to know I'm not like it's not just me that thought that. I thought both of those were pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess some of the Saw movies, like 3 and onward, are hit or miss with people.
I don't hate Saw 3, but after that, yeah. I was telling my daughter because she's starting to get into horror movies. She really likes the Final Destination movies. And she's like, how about the Saw movies? A lot of kids at school talk about that. And I said, 1 through 3 are fine, but it doesn't get good again until 10. She's like, wait, there's 10 of them? I was like,
yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
This might be controversial. I recently watched The Strangers because people kept telling me to, and I thought it was like one of the most overhyped things I'd seen. But
really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, just not my kind of horror movie, I guess.
At the time it came out, I think it was pretty cool. I think it was like the early 2010s. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but Let's see, I might have the date here. Yeah, 2008. So I think at the time when it came out, it was pretty unique. We hadn't really seen a movie like that before. But I think, you know, you probably heard so much about it, and they've released sequels and there's those prequel movies that are coming out by Rennie Harlan, the new ones.
Yeah, where it's like
so
split into
terrible.
chapters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
chapter 1 and then chapter 2 is coming out sometime this summer. Not good. I'm trying to remember what else. Hills Have Eyes is fine. Hostel. Some people hate those. Jeepers Creepers 2 is awful. So I put that up there.
That's a guilty pleasure for me.
The Wicker Man's one of those cult classic movies that I actually, it's so horrible. I love it.
Okay.
But yeah, Fear.com, that was a bad one with Steven Dorff. Yeah, I mean, we could probably go on this list all day, but we can move on to something else. But yeah,
it seems
question.
like it's showing most of like the ones that people liked, you know.
Yeah. Well, there's some bad ones here for sure, like sci-fi horror. It's just given different genres.
Yeah.
Like Jason X. You know,
oh yeah, there you go. There's
horrible.
a stinker happening. Yeah. Yeah. It's. Do you like The Mist? I saw that on there. That had a controversial ending.
Yeah, I think if I were to go back and watch it now, I would probably have a completely different opinion on it. But when I saw it at the time, I had no idea what I was in store for. So it was kind of one of those, holy, you know, what? That's the way they're going to end this movie.
Yeah.
It was the shock factor. I think that really stuck with me. But I think if I went back and watched it, I'm not sure I would like that movie at all.
I don't remember what year, 2007. So I remember picking that one up on Blu-ray. Like I convinced my mom to let me get it. And then I remember like shutting it off at one of the most like one of the goriest parts, thinking like, I shouldn't be watching this. I'm too young for this kind of thing, you know? Cause I was like 11 or 12 when it came out. But I ended up finishing it and like really, I think that was one of my first real exposures to like practical effect horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's pretty gnarly.
Dreamcatcher, this would be on that list for sure. This is
One Missed Call.
One Missed Call. I never saw that. And here's a hot opinion. A lot of people will probably disagree with me, but I hate the butterfly effect.
That is another like really depressing movie.
It's depressing, and I don't know if you ever saw the director's cut of that film.
Yeah.
Where he
like
killed,
the womb stuff.
The womb. It's
so dark.
Yeah, it's dark, but it's also so ridiculous.
yeah. Where he kind of like strangles himself with his umbilical cord. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wild.
Yeah, I never liked that movie. I always thought it was Splice. That's a rough watch.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one personally, but I hear people talk about it all the time.
Yeah, I could go on this list all day. Like Predator Requiem is terrible.
Yeah, there's one. That's a bad one.
And then Resident Evil Apocalypse. But yeah, all right. Let's get back to talking this. All right. So where were we? Oh, so someone asked, did you guys see the new Keanu Reeves, Seth Rogen movie trailer? Looks good, but maybe not. I did see it. I think it kind of gave me some early 2000s vibes. Yeah. It looks like everyone's just kind of having a fun time in that movie. So I'm here for it. Especially, did you see Friendship?
Yeah, and I was surprised how much I liked it.
Yeah, me too. I think last time we talked, we both were just like, come on, guys, like we can make a comedy again. And I was like, that's kind of the perfect template for it. I know it's an A24 movie, so it is kind of weird. It has some of that like signature weirdness built into it. But there were some parts in that movie that I legitimately thought were hilarious.
Yeah, I saw it in an auditorium with like 10 people in it, and you would have thought there was like 30 because there's just like so many laughs. Actually,
I saw it a little bit early, and it was a packed house, and it was like watching a comedy movie again. I forgot how great that is to just sit in a packed house with people laughing hysterically at certain scenes.
Yeah, but I mean, this looks like low stakes fun. I'll check it out.
Yeah, and I mean, Keanu Reeves, if he wants, he can actually be really funny.
Yeah, it seems like because I've always thought he was definitely like hit or miss depending on how he was casted, but this definitely looks like they know how to utilize him for comedy. So
yeah. So what other movies we talked Mission Impossible, we talked Bring Her Back. Did you see the Lilo and Stitch remake? I put out a semi-positive review about that. Put some of my kids in it, and I got blasted for it. They're like, no, it completely. And I was like, listen, I'm a 40-year-old man when the original came out, I was close to adulthood, so I never really like resonated with it as a kid. So I feel like there's two factions of people. There's like the parents who are my age that kind of went and saw it and were just like, oh yeah, no, it was a cute, fun movie, like perfect for the kids to go see. And then there's others that are like, they retconned this crap. They didn't make it about what the original was about. They left some of these characters out. There's some pretty pretty polarizing opinions on the matter with that movie.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I think it's a step in the right direction for the Disney live action remakes if they continue to do those. Because I know which one was it that they just like halted?
They were gonna do Tangled, and
that's
then
right.
Completely scrapped it altogether.
Yeah, and I don't know. This one seemed like it actually made sense. Like it's been so long since the original, so why not? You know, I think there's always going to be that crowd who just hates on any positive reviews because they don't want those live action remakes. So I got some backlash too. So I'm with you.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. I mean, it just comes with the territory. I'm used to it.
It's engagement. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, the best ones that I get are when people tell me that I suck. You know, just because like I gave Warfare. I think that's probably the best movie I've seen all year. Not my favorite, but the best. And I got a big reaction on that. And then some people are just like, no, this is like nothing happens. They're just stuck in a situation. I'm like, that's the point of the movie.
Yeah.
So, you know, but yeah, I just try not to argue with too many people online.
Yeah, it's like I find myself sometimes like trying to rebuttal, and then I'm like, "What am I doing?
Yeah, what am I doing?
I think there's something better to do with my time here."
Yeah, this might not even be a real person. You know?
Yeah, that's true. You don't even know anymore.
Yeah, oh, man, the bots. Like, I don't know if I told you, but I did a semi-positive review, not so like very mid review for the movie Spaceman with Adam Sandler.
Okay,
and it hit the algorithm, and it got like hundreds of thousands of views, you know, and I got like 3,000 comments on there, and I swear to God, at least 100, like 1,500 of them are the same comment over and over and over and over again. So, you know, it's just like none of this is real.
Yeah,
I think it was like a lot of people were mad at me because I didn't absolutely love that movie, and then it just somehow found the algorithm and then got all those hate bot comments. It's really weird.
Yeah, that is weird, and I'm with you on that. I thought that movie was like kind of lukewarm for me. Like I enjoyed it, but it was not what I expected. It was definitely more like contained and more about the relationship stuff, which I didn't expect. You know, for a movie called Spaceman, it was just like not really about space as much as I thought it would be.
Yeah, the spider and all that. It was there. So like a lot of the actual good feedback I got about that movie, especially from veterans, a lot of veterans reached out and said that this movie really captured what it was like to be alone, I guess, you know, to have to deal with like trauma and dealing with, you know, learning about yourself and having to live in like isolation and being alone. And I was like, I totally get that. And like the heartbreak elements of it.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's fine. But the issue I had big time with that movie was not big time, but the issue I did have with that movie is none of the characters were very personable. So I didn't really care as much as what was happening, because Adam Sandler was kind of an asshole to his pregnant wife, and she was kind of an asshole to him. And I was like, you guys aren't really engaging the audience to really care about what happens with their relationship. But I did think that a lot of the stuff when he's kind of losing his mind and he's not sure what's real, like I thought that was pretty cool. But at the end of the day, I was like, hey, it's not my favorite Adam Sandler movie, but it's not, you know, he swung and might have missed a little bit, but you know, it's whatever. It's, you know, I'm right down the middle on it.
I thought Paul Dano was good casting.
Oh yeah, he was great
though. Yeah, that
was cool. So what other movies that came out? So this week, did you see Karate Kid?
I did, and I it's similar to how you kind of spoke about Wednesday. I watched that with my son, and he hasn't seen the other Karate Kid movies, so he was just like having a blast with it. And definitely a mixed bag of a film, but overall, I had fun.
I think I said that film felt like cutscenes from a Karate Kid video game or something. I felt like there's so much stuff that they just left out. You know, like they'll introduce something and then they just never talk about it again. Like the Joshua Jackson side story, I was more intrigued in that and where that was going, and then it leads somewhere, and then they just completely are like, oh, never mind. This doesn't matter to the rest of the movie, which it shouldn't have, because it's a Karate Kid movie, but it's still like they introduced a lot of stuff, and then the main, you know, villain in that, I thought it was interesting. I was like, they didn't fight at school, so let's go to this tournament that we're not even sure if we're both going to end up fighting each other at the end, And I was like, you're in New York. You guys could just go on the street and fight. No one's going to stop you. But
Yeah, it would have been cooler if it was like yeah. And I mean, I love montages. Like,
Me too.
Especially when it's like training and stuff like that. Like, Always Ready has a lot of montages in it, and so I had fun with those. And I saw a lot of criticism about some of the song choices, but I thought for the target audience, it totally worked.
Yeah.
So,
and so I think you're right. Maybe I'll take my son to see it. He's your son's 8, right?
he's 8. Yeah.
Yeah. My son's 9, so I'm sure if I took him to see it, he'll probably have a blast with that movie.
Yeah, and there's enough emotion there where like he's been making note of movies now. Whenever it makes him sad, he always tells me, he's like, that made me a little sad, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I think it was supposed to, so that's okay,
Yeah, I think he's at that good age where you're really starting to. Because I showed my son the Mission Impossible movies, and he really got into it by number 4.
Nice.
And then 6 was, he was just like on the edge of his seat the whole time, like like really like getting affected by certain action elements. And we just watched Dead Reckoning, and he thought it was great. He's like, can we go see the new one? And I was like, yeah, we'll go see it. I already saw it, but I'll take you to see it.
Cool.
So yeah, maybe that's a good movie to go take him to see. And then we bring her back. Got Ballerina coming out. So what do you, real quick, what are like your top 3 movies that you've seen this year? Because I think last time we talked, there was like nothing that had really
nothing had really come out yet. I really enjoyed Warfare. Bring Her Back. One that really surprised me, and I don't know if it's top 3, but Clown in a Cornfield was so much fun.
It was fun. It was ridiculous. It was silly, but it was so aware that it was silly that it really leaned into that.
I thought the midpoint twist in that, not having like known anything about the book, like I was like, what? That's where they're going with this? And then it like totally worked. Like,
that worked for me too. I know a lot of people had issues with that, but I was like, that to me was actually one of the cooler aspects of the movie. And then I thought the girl, the lead, she was a pretty good final girl.
Yeah, she was great.
She was a good actress. She carried a lot of emotion, totally played a great teenager. So I thought she was able to carry that movie in a very effective way.
Yeah, I found myself carrying a lot more than I thought I would. I'll pull up my letterbox here and see like the movies that I've seen. And
I do have somebody who's asking me if I have a letterboxed. I do have a letterbox. I'm not very active on it. I might get back to being active on it. So a little behind the scenes, I was very active on Letterboxd, and then a competitor came up and wanted me to kind of start really start posting my reviews on them, but they completely, the guy who was running it, I don't want to say the name of the app, he stopped doing it. They lost a lot of traction, lost a lot of money. So I just kind of bowed out on all that. And then Letterboxd grew to a certain point where I can sometimes become a little bit contrarian. It seems like everybody just uses Letterboxd now for like almost like they do social media. They just want to be the first to see a movie so they can be the first to review a movie. So, I mean, there's pros and cons with it. I might be getting back onto it a little bit soon, but yes, I do have a Letterboxd as to jackass of all trades, just like anything else. So, but you're pretty active with yours, Derek?
Yeah, I'm starting to grow on there. Just hit 1,100 followers. So,
wow. Okay.
Yeah, I would say average like probably 20 to 30 likes on every review now. Okay. Sinners. I don't know how I forgot about that.
Yep.
I think that's my favorite movie of the year, personally. I was really impressed with how unapologetic Ryan Coogler was with his style in that one. And I there's some divisive stuff in that one too, but I saw it 3 times. So
oh wow.
Yeah, I saw it with my wife. I saw it with my buddy Ben in IMAX, and then the first time I saw it, I saw it on my own, not knowing if I was gonna like it. I was just like blown away. So
yeah, me too. Yeah, there's some divisive stuff. What were you getting feedback from that was real divisive? Was it just the
I heard a lot of people say that huge sequence, that oneer, I don't want to get into spoilers for anybody, but some people thought it took him out of the movie because of what he did with it.
Kind of presented a sort of like mystical element or something. I don't know where you really go. I just thought it was cool. It was kind of like
I did too. I think the first time I saw it, I kind of was like unsure of what I was seeing, but then like the second time, everything that I questioned the first time clicked. But then I had more questions and like, oh, is that a plot hole? This and that. And then the third time I saw it, all my questions were like answered. I'm like, yeah, this movie is like basically perfect.
There are definitely a few things in that movie that don't make sense, and I'm wondering if maybe there's a director's cut or something. Because and then there's a scene too where when they let all the vampires in, where I was like, that was so dumb. Like just a dumb plot choice, but I was like, I know you need to have that element into this movie, so I guess that was the way to do it. But yeah, no, I love Sinners. I thought it was very technically, it was an amazing movie. Like the sound, the sound design, the choreography, I mean, the cinematography were just like top notch. I love that they didn't use CGI as a crutch. It was basically there for like atmospheric sort of things, which I appreciate. I'm appreciating that more and more these days. I don't like so much CGI in movies. I think we're kind of like with the day and age of AI really creeping up, and I think people are more and more just liking the practical stuff. You know, it makes it feel like it's a movie as opposed to like some uncanny valley video game or something.
Yeah, I think when CGI works best, you don't even know it's there.
Yep.
You know, like
Christopher
Zodiac.
Nolan's like the master of that.
You've seen Zodiac, right? David Fincher. Yeah,
Yep.
there's so much VFX in that movie that you don't even know about. Like, because they shot in like the real locations, but it's not, you know, the 70s or whenever it takes place anymore. And so they literally were like walking around with like moving blue screens, and yeah, it's crazy the behind the scenes on that one.
That movie's great. I like that more and more people these days are really appreciating what that movie is. Speaking of David Fincher, how do you feel about the news that he's directing the sequel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Brad Pitt?
Yeah, so Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is literally like a top 10 movie for me. I think it was one of those movies that really solidified, like, I think the movie, like the filmmaking process is what like really fascinates me. And so it felt like it was made for somebody like me. I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see if David Fincher just unapologetically does his own style, or if he tries to make it feel like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But either way, he's, you know, a great choice, I guess. You know, like if Tarantino trusts him, then I'm sure it'll be interesting.
He's Fincher, you know, like, he's got a lot of goodwill. I know that his last movie was pretty divisive. I didn't love it like a lot of people did, but I didn't like think it was bad by any means. It didn't knock my socks off like I usually expect a Fincher movie to do. And see, that's the problem with a director like him, is that if he's not really like one-upping his last movie, then you're going to be like, oh, that was fine, I guess.
Yeah. He kind of reminds me of Steven Soderbergh a little bit, where like not every one of his movies is like innovative, but you know, it's well made. Yeah. Like Presence. I really enjoyed that, but you know, some people,
it was cool.
Some people look at it and they're like, yeah, it's fine, not what I expected. It wasn't scary. It was kind of gimmicky, but I thought it was pretty genius what they did with that. So,
and then he like a couple months later released Black Bag, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, that was, I was not expecting the kind of tension that movie had.
Yeah, it was great.
Really cool.
A masterclass of acting between Cate Blanchett and Fassbender. So good.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how I feel about that kind of like blown out lighting style that he does, but it kind of grew on me on that one.
Yeah, I was okay with it. I think for the style of movie that was,
it made sense.
Really it really worked for me in that movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. Oh, someone says Megan 2.0 is better than, I hope it's better than the original and learns from the mistakes of the first. I don't know. I think Megan 2.0 looks like a dumpster fire, and I like the first one, but I could be wrong. It
looks self-aware, and I think
it does look self-aware. It does look like they're taking some huge swings with this one. And the trailer, it doesn't work. It's just the trailer, though. I mean, I could be totally wrong on that.
Yeah,
I'm hoping it's good because my youngest, she absolutely loves the first Megan. It's like her gateway horror movie, you know, like
nice.
Megan for Halloween, and she thought it was
that's cool.
She thinks like Megan's the coolest thing, so she's real excited about the new one. So we'll see. I mean, it's Blumhouse. Blumhouse is one of those interesting production houses these days. And I was actually going to ask you about this because do you remember when Blumhouse really kind of reared its head? It kind of had like an A24 vibe with it. You know, like they were really taking chances on these smaller movies. They're putting out stuff like Sinister. And they actually produced Whiplash.
Yeah.
Like
Don't forget that. Yeah.
They were doing stuff that like people were like, okay, this is an indie studio that we should take serious. And now whenever I see a trailer come out for a Blumhouse movie, I instantly am dismissive.
Yeah, me too. I think they've really found their kind of like go-to formula where it's, let's make a PG-13 horror movie that's like, it just doesn't really do anything exciting, but it's so cheap to make that they just print money with it.
That's what I'm saying. Like they instantly will make their money back, except for The Exorcist. Apparently, that was just a huge financial blunder.
Yeah, they spent a lot on that, and it was disappointing because I thought the movie had some like good scares in it and stuff, and it just
recycled so much of what that series is. It instead of doing anything new, it just was like, let's do all the stuff that made the other ones good, and ultimately it didn't really have the same impact. Unfortunately,
I think they kind of went downhill for me when they did the Halloween trilogy. I thought the first one was like really fun, and then it was like, what are we doing with these other ones?
The first one was cool. Like it got a lot of people excited about it again. And I actually think the first the Halloween reboot was pretty cool. But then by Halloween Ends, Halloween Ends.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
I was happy when it ended.
Yeah, me too. And apparently, like that's kind of garnering some big cult-like following these days. Apparently, a lot of people like that movie. I remember it came out not too long ago, and everybody and myself included, I really disliked that movie. But I guess different strokes for different folks, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get to that point where we can start shifting over and talking.
Hey,
All right. Let's pull up some news here. So, let's go through this. So yesterday, Netflix, I think it's pronounced Tudum.
Tudum. Yeah.
Like Tudum.
Yeah.
So it says all the trailers, release dates you missed for Stranger Things, Squid Game, Wednesday, and more. So they kicked off last night. Did you watch any of this?
I was at a networking event for like the New Mexico film, so
I saw you posted stuff about that. There was some relatively big names there, huh?
Yeah, the Cast of Dark Ones was there, and they were talking about they're currently wrapping up season 4, and so it was interesting to hear what they had to say about filming in New Mexico. But
yeah, is that show any good? I haven't watched it at all.
I mean, it depends how you feel about supernatural elements.
I love supernatural stuff like X-Files.
Then you might dig it. Yeah. Okay. It's a cool show. Yeah.
There's a lot of like New Mexico, like Native American mythology. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up around it. So my mom was a pharmacist, but she worked for the the public health service. So she did like all the Indian reservation stuff and would do all their, do all their medicine essentially. So I grew up kind of going around different Indian reservations, getting to know a lot of the people. So I really got fascinated with a lot of their mythology and things of that nature, like the skinwalkers and things of that nature. So
yeah, you should check it out. I think they're trying to do like 6 seasons or something.
So here we go. So Stranger Things is going to be a 3-part release. The 5th and final season will debut in 3 volumes. The first on November 26th, second on Christmas Day, and the third on New Year's Eve. So at least you don't have to wait too long for the second part of it. To me, this seems like such a marketing gimmick. It seems like a good way to get and hold subscribers.
100%.
Yeah, it's a very gimmicky way to release it. It's like just release it all at one time or do episode by episode. I don't care. I kind of like that structure. I know some people hate it, but
I think that's what we're moving to. I think they're going to go back to that cable TV.
I'd be fine with it.
Release.
One of the things I miss, especially like, I work a job that I go to every day, is just the water cooler talk from episode to episode, like the Game of Thrones days or Breaking Bad days. Like you'd go in and be like, oh, did you watch the episode last night? You kind of do your own little recap of the series with like friends and colleagues. I kind of miss that because a lot of that's lost when you're releasing every single thing all at once.
Yeah, me too. I miss that.
But yeah, with Stranger Things, okay, the official trailer for Squid Game season 3 came out. So how'd you feel about season 2 of Squid Game? Did you watch it?
I did, and I honestly went into it thinking there is no way they can live up to that first season because it took like 10 years for them to like get it greenlit and everything.
Yeah.
And it was pretty good. Definitely like some pacing issues because they were
Yes.
leading right into season 3 the way they did it. But
Yeah,
I'll
my
watch it.
biggest gripe was I had two things that kind of bothered me about it. I didn't like the well, actually, I thought it was interesting the way that he wanted to get back into the Squid Games. It didn't make a whole lot of sense, but I'm hoping that it kind of does with season 3. And then I didn't like that it just basically like left off like, oh, we need to watch another episode to really see what's happening here. It wasn't
Right.
It didn't have the same tension that I would think it was going for.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah. And then let's see. Oh, so the official trailer for Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Did you watch that?
I did not, but I want to.
All right, let's watch this now. Can you hear it?
I cannot.
Can't hear it?
No.
Bummer. See, we were close, man, but I guess you can't hear it over there. Oh, you know what? Here we go. I got to do this. Let's try it again.
There we go.
Now?
Yep, I hear it.
I had determined that the memory of my evils should die with me. Some of what I will tell you is fact. Some is not. But it is all true. What manner of creature is that? What manner of devil made him? I did. I had a vision. An idea took shape in my mind.
Kind of giving off Nosferatu vibes a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
Unavoidable. Until it became truth. In seeking life, I created death.
Hell yeah, dude. That looks great.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Interesting.
Okay, I am pumped.
Me too. So two things. One, I'm super upset that it's only coming out on Netflix. Like that looks like it needs to be in the theaters.
Yeah, that production design is insane.
Insane. And that's like I said, it was giving off those Nosferatu vibes. But what I love about Del Toro's movie with this, it looks like there's so many throwbacks to just like older horror films in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in 100%. I'm super bummed that's not coming. Maybe they'll do like a little preliminary theatrical release. I think Netflix should capitalize on that more. Like say, hey, we're gonna release this 2 weeks into the theater, and then we're gonna put it on Netflix. That only seems like it makes sense to me. But
I've been saying they need to take advantage of the cinemas more. I mean, I think if they did like the finale of Stranger Things for a week in theaters, it would do crazy money.
Yeah, and make crazy money, and it would really garner that word of mouth.
Yeah, like I don't know what's going on with that, but if there's an opportunity to see that on the big screen, I definitely will.
100%. That movie has, and that's the other thing with the Fincher movie that we were talking about, the Once Upon a Time sequel. That's only Netflix, and I'm like, come on, man, these are the type of movies that we need to go to the movie theaters to see. Yeah,
they spend so much money, and it's like. I mean, the Electric State, for example, like for as meh as that movie was, like it would have looked great on the big screen. You know,
I would have much rather watched that in IMAX than watching it on my computer screen, because it wasn't a good movie, like you said, but visually speaking, it was great.
Looked expensive, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna spend $20 million, I think it was like the 10th most expensive movie ever made, and you're only gonna put it on Netflix. I don't know how you make your money back doing that. Like, the numbers don't know, the math doesn't math to me when it comes to something like that.
Yeah, there's definitely some like trickery going on with like the write-offs or something, but I don't know.
Yeah, me neither. Okay, let's share this tab. Okay, so then speaking of horror, we got the first 6 minutes of Wednesday, which I alluded to. So they also showed the Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery.
I did not see that one either.
You didn't watch that one either. So how did you feel about the Knives Out movies? Because I really liked the first one. I thought the second one, I couldn't stand the second one, if I'm being completely honest. I thought it was way too predictable and really, it kind of came across like way too pretentious, I think. It's just how it felt to me. And I've talked to other people who kind of felt that way too. But there's a lot of people that like the second one, you know, no shade at all towards those people. I get it. But the second one just didn't work for me. But how'd you feel about, was it Glass Onion?
Yeah, Glass Onion. I don't know if maybe I'm just not a huge fan of Rian Johnson's style, but I mean, I thought the first one was a really good whodunit. Second one, like, it was fun, but like you said, it just, I don't know, maybe it was something to do with it just being on Netflix. It just didn't hit as hard for me either. But
yeah, I think there's there's almost like a certain caveat now, right? When you put a movie out on Netflix, it almost has like it's almost like it's branded right away that it's not going to be as good as it should be.
Yeah, and I mean, the only way to break that stigma is to make some good movies. And I mean, but Glass Onion, I would say, is one of the better films. So
sure. Did you have you watched anything else, like any good series lately? Because I watched the Tom Segura one on Netflix, and man, I had some people like unfollow me because I actually thought it was funny as hell. But I also said, this is not for everyone. It's all, I said the best way I compared it was, it's like Black Mirror written by 15-year-olds on shrooms. Like, that's the best way I could describe that series. It's insane, and it's not for everybody.
I'll drop a little insider knowledge here. I actually, I guess not about that, but Tom Segura, I've actually been talking to his agency about him making a cameo in Always Ready. I have a part that I think he could, and they said, we're interested in this. Talk to us again when you have funding. So we'll see.
If you get that, you know, maybe spread the word. I could get him on here because I would love to talk to that guy.
Yeah, no, and he was on Joe Rogan promoting the series and talking about how he thinks that's his calling, is like filmmaking. Like, it gives him a feeling that, you know, nothing else does, even stand up. So maybe it'll work out. We'll see. But I mean, that looked pretty bonkers. I didn't watch it. My wife was like, no, I don't want to watch that.
No, so like, I think your wife and my wife are probably pretty similar in that regard. Hey, buddy, what's going on?
He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, we're doing a podcast.
Yeah. It's all good. He's welcome anytime. Okay, so then there was one more. I don't know if you got a chance to watch this one, but this is one of the movies that I am either going to love because I love the original, or I'm going to hate.
My name is Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, I can hear it.
I decided to give golf.
I saw bits and pieces.
Okay.
But even when you're at the top of your game, you can always shank one.
Happy Gilmore sucks.
Oh, eat a bag of shit!
How are you going to put Vienna through ballet school?
It's $75,000 a year. That's 4 years. That's 333 grand.
John Daly.
That's terrible math, Johnny. It's 300 grand. I wouldn't even know where to start.
Let them see the happy I fell in love with.
Come on, you got to do it, Dad. All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go get him, Dad. But I was about the jig. I know how to do it, Dad. Let's go. Oh, Daddy got this.
What the hell is happening?
Happy Gilmore is breaking in yet another caddy he just met.
All right, we're going to go. See, but you bring those. Those always come. All right, that's it.
They got a strap if you want to use the strap. Happy Gilmore didn't have things flowing on the first boat.
Oh, son of a
Check out the name tag, grandson. You're in my world now.
I got you a little something there, Pop. Everyone is talking about a comeback kid.
Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore. Happy Gilmore.
We've been watching you play Mr. Gilmore. So inspiring.
My dad loved you, man. I am so sorry.
Give him here. I got some Gorilla Glue.
Remember the happy place I went to? You go to yours.
Oh my God, Rory!
Jackass. Bingo. You stole my life from me. Why would I want to steal the life of somebody who eats pieces of shit for breakfast?
So there we go. There's Happy Gilmore. Say what you will about Adam Sandler. I'm in. I'm a sucker for the first Happy Gilmore. There is something to be said. I've heard some people whining online that it's like it just doesn't look the same, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's 2025. The first one came out 30 years ago, so it's obviously technology has advanced. But I think it looks kind of fun. I don't know how you feel about this, but I'm in the boat. Like that's his real daughter in real life. You know? That's in there, and he puts his.
I met both
into,
of them.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. They I think it's cool that he's doing that. Where like his family's becoming more of a part of everything he's doing. I think that's cool.
And he's always put like his buddies, his high school and college roommates in his movies and stuff like that. So it's just like Adam Sandler just likes to have like a big happy family in his movies. He doesn't do movies for critical response. He just wants to put out movies that people will watch, and he wants to enjoy the experience with the people he loves. And there's those people like, oh, it's nepotism at its finest. And I'm like, listen, can the guy not just go out there and have fun making movies with the people he has fun with? Like, who cares? It's Happy Gilmore.
Like, you wouldn't do the same thing and hook up your friends and family. Come on. Exactly. I mean, but people forget he's literally like one of the highest paid filmmakers like ever.
Oh yeah.
And that doesn't happen by accident.
And he signed like a $600 million deal with Netflix or something. That's why it's coming out.
That was like his. I think he like renewed it, didn't he? Like it's like a second deal or something. Yeah. So
that's why it's coming out on Netflix. Because a lot of people are like, this would make $1 billion, $1 billion in the movie theater, and I'm like, yeah, probably would, but he's got an exclusive deal with Netflix. So
yeah,
I think Netflix should look into getting into releasing more movies like we previously mentioned in the theaters, but. I also saw one of the C-level dudes on Netflix that was like, hey, Netflix is single-handedly saving the movie industry. And I'm like, come on, man. That's a ridiculous thing to say.
I mean, sounds like something that they would say, of course they got to say something like that. But I just looked it up because I was curious. So the first one had a budget of 12 million. So of course this is going to, it's so much more expensive. It's going to look different, but I mean, it looks like a lot of fun cameos. I saw Post Malone in there.
Yep. Post Malone. You got Travis Kelce, John Daly. Like, it's got a lot of. It looks like it's a lot of fun, man.
I'll watch it. I'm not expecting it to be anywhere near as good as the first, but I'll definitely. I'm sure I'll get some laughs out of it.
Yep. That's. Are you watching a Happy Gilmore movie for anything else other than that?
Right. I mean, but I do think that Happy Gilmore might be his best film. Like, I in terms of like comedies,
there's an argument there for sure. Yeah. I love Happy Gilmore. I mean, I've seen it. That's probably one of the comedies.
100 times.
I've watched that movie so many times,
and it never fails to make me laugh.
It was funny. I showed it to my daughter, and she's Gen Alpha or whatever, and she was just like. She's like, this movie, like they used to make comedy. I was like, this was just normal to us. Like we didn't, not everyone was offended by everything back then. So,
yeah. I don't know how he does it all.
I know, man. I know. I got this question that says, is Until Dawn good or does it suck? I don't know if you saw this, but I thought it was awful.
I thought it sucked. I don't know what they were thinking with that one. And it kind of like came and went, it just, nobody talked about it.
It'll cement its place in my top 10 worst of the year. One of them, for sure.
Yeah.
The reason why, so I saw a lot of people reviewing it, and they were like, I never played the games, so I don't really have anything to compare it to. I played the games, or the game, sorry.
Me too.
And the game had like a huge cast in there. I was like, man, they really had all the pieces that they could really just take from the game and make it into this. And they completely changed a lot of the stuff in there. I thought the first maybe 30 minutes or so, it was relatively interesting. But then I'm sure, like once it hits that point, you're like, why are they even doing this in this movie? It got really silly. And not like it's so bad it's fun. It's just it's so bad it's just not good. It really took me out of the movie. So
it felt like it bared very little resemblance to the game, and like my review was literally just like play the game, just play the game. I don't it for all the like of all the games they could have adapted, that seemed like a really odd one to choose because it's basically a movie already.
I agree.
That ending felt like a joke though. It was so bad.
You are not kidding. That ending was ridiculous. All right, so let's add another news story here. So this is what I alluded to when I was introducing the show. So
yeah,
this comes from CBR. It says a huge problem movie. Marvel reportedly worried after Fantastic Four First Steps test screening. So I'm going to take everything here with a grain of salt, but CBR is pretty legit. It's not like one of those weird Twitter, sub web pages where like that person's just going to hate this movie for the sake of hating it. This actually has some legitimacy to it. So according to Hollywood scooper Jeff Snyder, First Steps got mixed reviews following a public test screening in Los Angeles earlier this week. According to Snyder, the biggest causes of concern among some audience members were the lack of character development and questionable CGI usage. My source called it both mid and meh, and not that bad, but not that good either. More concerningly, they said it featured weak character development and bad CGI, though the latter issue will certainly be addressed over the next month. So this is my concern with it. I don't know how you are with the state of the MCU these days, but that's kind of been I'm not alone in that. That's been my complaint. I've been calling it the meh CU for a little bit, just because everything that comes out is forgettable. It's just very mediocre. I did like Thunderbolts, but I didn't think it was like top notch Marvel or anything like that. But I did think it was a step in the right direction. And I was really looking forward to Fantastic Four First Steps. But the last trailer, I was also kind of like, I see some cracks in the armor here, maybe a little bit. So this isn't encouraging, but I wanted to kind of gauge your thoughts on it, where you are at the state of MCU and if this news surprises you at all.
I'm with you. It's felt kind of like the mid, CU, and I thought Thunderbolts again step in the right direction, embracing the filmmakers behind it, and like it felt like it took some bigger swings than the last handful of Marvel movies had.
Yeah, I tried something different, which is what I was really appreciative of.
Yeah, and it like actually had some solid themes to it and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I mean, regarding this, I mean, what are test screenings for? They want you to tell them what doesn't work. So I'm not surprised there's some bad rumblings, but
yeah, I mean, the same thing's been happening with the Superman movie. I think I'm a little more concerned about that movie than this one, but I mean, only time will tell.
Me too. Yeah, I'm like hesitant to get excited about Superman because one, I don't know how to feel about it, and we won't really be able to know until we see it. And then two, it's like I think superhero fatigue is real, and it's I think that once Endgame hit, it was at the end game for superhero movies. I'm semi excited for this. I like the style of it. It looks fun.
The style does look fun. The aesthetic is really cool looking in this.
The thing is nowadays they work on VFX literally up until the week it comes out. So I'm not surprised if some of the CGI is spotty too. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt. But
and I saw a report that Bob Iger was pretty unhappy with the state of the MCU movies these days, and I was just like, you're the boss, dude. Like if you want these movies to look and have better reactions, then take your time with them. You're spending so much money. If you want them to, if you want to make your money back, put a little bit of care into these movies. Take the Denis Villeneuve route. Like if you want the CGI to look, that was my biggest gripe when the trailer came out. I was like, why does the Silver Surfer look worse 20 years after the last one? It doesn't make any sense. And you know, I know that they're treating CGI kind of like sweatshops these days. You know,
it's rough.
They hire a gazillion different companies to do it, and they give them ridiculous deadlines. But I'm also just like, there's no care put in there. Like it's wild to me going back and watching a movie from 20 years ago and being like, this looks better than 99% of the stuff that comes out these days.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was. Maybe it was 3C Films or somebody in that crowd. They were talking about how, you know, if you think about it, you know, 20 years ago, there was like 3 big CGI heavy movies that came out a year, and now it's like 3 a month. So it's like there's only so many VFX teams to work on it, and yeah, I mean, it's. I really wish, like you said, they would almost go on like a hiatus. Go back to the drawing board. Come up with a solid plan before you spend all this money. Because I think the only thing they can do now is start spending less. You know, make it feel more indie.
Yeah,
but
I
don't
mean,
know.
Thunderbolts kind of had that feel, but that's ended up being like a huge box office flop. And then, you know,
they did not talk about its box office at all, which is a bad sign.
It did really bad, unfortunately, but compared to the, you know, the budget and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, like any other movie that made that kind of money, they'd be thrilled with. But I was like, you know, when you're throwing hundreds of millions of dollars at a movie and it's not return, you know, a good return on investment, you know, there's conversations that do need to be had. But it's like, did you watch Andor, the new season of Andor?
I didn't, but I loved the first season.
Okay, well, I highly recommend it if you find some time to check it out, because I thought it was just great. But one of the things that I really appreciated about it is that it looks great. It looks like they took some time and crafted a lot of the CGI in there and really spent some time with just the overall aesthetic of everything. And because of that, it really didn't take me out of what was happening. I was really buying into the world that they were selling. And it's the same thing with like Dune. Like, go back and watch Dune Part 2 and try to tell me that movie looks bad anywhere. It's just like, it looks fun. That's how a Dune movie should look. You know, say what you will about the content of it. I know some people have issues with it, but I absolutely was just blown away by how amazing that movie looks.
Yeah, and I mean, Dune has been one of those things that many filmmakers have tried to tackle, and this is the first time where it's actually like came to fruition and worked.
Yeah. And you know, Denny's real notorious for setting up the shots in camera, so he knows exactly where and how the CGI needs to be placed in those certain shots, not just let's figure it out in post sort of thing that a lot of these studios do now. So, and using real locations. I think the day of CG, of like green screen, blue screen, everything, it really needs to kind of go by the wayside, I think.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, though, it's like I think as we kind of, I feel like we're going to start to, or maybe we won't. Like after the strikes and stuff, I was expecting to see more of like a drought in content, but it seems like they've kept up. And
there's too much.
Yeah, and I think the blue screen stuff just allows them to pump stuff out so fast that, you know, unfortunately, I don't think that's going to go away. But I don't know. We'll see. I still believe there's going to be an indie resurgence coming.
Yeah.
I think people are going to start, like, I mean, we're seeing a lot of big actors start to make directorial debuts, you know?
Yeah, that's true. We're seeing comedians and stuff to kind of direct some of their own things. I think, you know, especially, I think we had this conversation a little bit last time, but I recently had a guest on, and she's an actress. She does like a lot of YouTube reaction videos too, to like classic movies that she's never seen. She's got a pretty big channel. And I was talking to her about it, and I, you know, there's a lot of concerns I have with the industry, especially with just the way AI is going and how it's evolving so quickly before our eyes. It's really kind of scary. But I also look at it from the perspective of, you know, somebody has to prompt the AI in order to get those results that they need. I don't know if it has the full-fledged, you know, create these good-looking things from beginning to end and tell like a cohesive story. It really needs the person to drive that whole ship. And I don't know what that looks like. I mean, just the amount that it's evolved over the past year or two is insane. But what I do see and what I am encouraged by is that people, the audience, seems to be looking for less franchise, superhero, big budget, massive things. And they kind of seem to be appreciating more of like these indie sort of stories, original content, practical effects. It seems like we're kind of wanting to go back to what made us fall in love with movies in the first place. And part of it, I think, is because, you know, my generation, I think, are you a millennial, like a younger millennial?
Yeah,
Kind of on the cusp, right?
yeah, because I was born in '96, so it's kind of like
Okay,
an
so
argument where that cutoff is.
I
But
think you're like right at the end of there, and like I'm one of the
yeah,
older millennials.
yeah,
So and this generation is just like nostalgia everything, right? Like, you know,
yeah,
we want to see a Mission Impossible movie 30 years later, or a Top Gun movie or whatever. So even with like Lilo and Stitch, you know, you put out a Lilo and Stitch, that this new Lilo and Stitch made more money its opening weekend than the entire animated one did worldwide its entire run.
right,
So
crazy.
yeah, insane. So it seems like people are just wanting to go to the theater to escape kind of like all the social media stuff these days, and they want something simpler, you know, stuff that we really fell in love with back in the day. So my whole point of that big diatribe is that it seems like it's way more accessible for people like you and me to really kind of get our foot in the door of the industry than it used to be. You know, I lived in LA for quite a while, and I tried, you know, to do the filmmaking route, and was doing the production assistant route, and was working on films and stuff. And back then it was like, you need to know somebody who's pulling the strings in order, like, you could be the best actor in the world, but if you don't know somebody, or like somebody's kid, like you nothing's happening for you. And now it seems like just, you know, somebody who lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico, or Dallas, Texas, like we could put our feelers out there. We could garner a little bit of attention online. And that seems to be a much better route for like a lot of creative voices to get their voices heard.
Yeah, you're preaching, man. I was just talking to my buddy Ben, again, that I made Pollo Loco with, and he's in LA, and so he was kind of talking about how when he came to visit New Mexico last month, he felt like the vibe here is so much more positive. That in LA, everybody's just angry, and you know they want to blame all of it on the big studios and stuff. But you know, I think it's the perfect time for us, like indie filmmakers, to really just kind of take things into our own hands. And I mean, I want to see what I can do with no budget, because I think if you could pull something off like that, then I mean, they can't really deny that you have some kind of, I guess, drive, or you know, some kind of spark that other people just don't have. You know, especially the ones making these bigger films that are just kind of doing it for money's sake, you know. And I think the audience is feeling that. I think they're really starting to push back on. I see cash grab thrown around a lot now. Like, that looks like a cash grab. I saw that about Happy Gilmore too, and I'm like, well, it's going on Netflix. I don't really know how it's a cash grab, but I see what you're saying. They're like, we want to see some like original stuff, and so I'm trying to embrace that. And yeah, man, it's an interesting time, and I think social media is the new reality TV. Reality TV's dying. So
yeah, no, it's cool because you know, like you and me come across each other, and like we become friends, and we never met each other. You know, it's like it's a cool way to network, but it's also a cool way to see the talents that certain people have and different inspirations too. You know, like I've had a few people reach out and be like, I really like the way you do your reviews. It's kind of making me rethink the way that I do mine. And it's like, I'm not like a huge creator or anything. I got a decent following, but it's like, it's cool to hear stuff like that, where you're just like, hey, I put in a lot of work in the stuff I do. It's nice every once in a while to get a little notice for it, you know?
Yeah, every time I see one of your reviews, I always stop and watch it, because I just appreciate how much effort you put into it. Because like you said, a lot of it is now just people, and I'm guilty of it too. I like to just sit in my car and, you know, give my thoughts. But
there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely, you know, shifted more towards filmmaking. So it's like, it's not that I don't want to do that style. It's that it's a time thing. And like, you know, I appreciate people like you who put that time into it. Cause if you put that much time into it, that tells me that you care, you know? So yeah.
I appreciate that, man. So yeah, no, I think I'm excited for a lot of the things you have coming up. It seems like just doing silly little things really ended up benefiting you, and kind of put a different trajectory on maybe where your career path was going.
Yeah, I mean, right now I think it's really easy for somebody who's trying to get a film made to kind of just, like I said, get angry and just, blame everybody else except themselves for not, just trying to make something happen. And so I think I'm just kind of saying screw it. I'm just trying to make something. And at the very least, it's me starting out, and everybody's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. And then we got this question. Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad? Which is better? Nice New Mexico related question.
Yeah.
I'm going Breaking Bad, but I would say Better Call Saul is probably the best spinoff that's ever happened in television. It's super underappreciated too, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think
got all the accolades, but man, Better Call Saul is really freaking solid.
I think Better Call Saul is really consistent out the gate with its quality, and obviously it started out with a bigger budget than Breaking Bad did. I personally was really blown away by Saul Goodman's arc in that, and I thought the finale was once again just like 10 out of 10.
That finale is absolutely 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Breaking Bad was just so revolutionary. I mean, it was kind of like The Sopranos, where it just kind of changed television, you know? And so, I'm not surprised that most people lean towards Breaking Bad, but I think I'm going Better Call Saul, honestly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And you know what? I don't blame you at all. One of the best, just series altogether, I think that's ever happened. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, we are so spoiled right now. Like, TV's so freaking good, especially right now. That it's you almost forget how welcomed something like Breaking Bad coming out was, because the TV wasn't what it was now.
Yeah.
Have you been watching anything? Like, did you watch The Studio?
Oh, I loved The Studio. I thought it was a breath of fresh air to have a show just stick to one storyline every episode, you know? Like, everything is so like you got 3 or 4 storylines going on at once, and it's like then you get one episode here where like you're like, I wanted to see what was going on with the other thing. And this was just like, I mean, except for those last 2 episodes, obviously, like it was like a to be continued kind of thing, but I thought it worked great, and I'm glad they got a second season. So
me too.
I'm excited.
I think Apple right now is killing it the most when it comes to television.
Yeah.
Have you been watching the show? It just ended. It was with John Hamm. It's called Friends and Neighbors.
No, is it worth checking out?
Good.
Okay,
really
because
good.
I was thinking about it. It looked kind of like kind of almost a Breaking Bad kind of thing, you know?
Sort of, yeah. And it kind of goes the direction you're thinking, but then it doesn't. There's some nice twists and turns, and John Hamm is fantastic in it. I really, really highly recommend that show. And then the best show outside of Andor and The Studio that I've seen all year, and Severance, that I've seen all year is Mobland on Paramount Plus, the Tom Hardy, Guy Ritchie show.
No buzz though. Like,
no buzz. And if anybody hasn't watched it and you're feeling like watching it, do it. You will not regret it. I promise you. It is fantastic.
That is also like, Taylor Sheridan, right?
What?
Is that Taylor Sheridan who made that one?
No, it's Guy Ritchie.
Oh, that's right. That's the Guy Ritchie one.
Yeah,
you said with Tom Hardy?
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan, Tom Hardy, and Helen Mirren. And man, it is so good. It's kind of a War of the Roses, modern day British gangster sort of tale. And it is captivating. Tom Hardy doesn't do a weird choice with his voice. To understand what he's saying in this show. And he's actually like in it. I feel like so much of what Tom Hardy's been in lately, like he just has like these little bit parts. Even Venom, he's Venom for a large chunk of the movie. And you can't. Those movies are terrible, but the point is here, it's like this is the Tom Hardy that we all love. Like he's really, really solid in this role. He kind of plays like the wolf from Pulp Fiction. He's like the fixer for the family.
Okay,
so good, man. Can't recommend it enough. All right. And it's just got the Guy Ritchie sharp dialogue. It's got some ridiculous over the top scenes, cool like mob sort of feel to it. So it's can't recommend that show enough if anybody's watching it. So
Yeah, I think I got it confused with Tulsa King for a second.
Oh
but,
yeah. Tulsa
yeah,
King's
no.
fun. Tulsa King's fun.
I'll check out Mobland, Your Friends and Neighbors. I've been thinking about checking out Dope Thief too. I heard good things about that.
I haven't watched that, but I've heard good things. But yeah, I mean, honestly, if it's an Apple show, I'm usually like, yeah, it's probably going to be pretty solid.
Yeah. My wife and I are watching Murderbot, and that's really short, but it's good.
Is it already over?
No, it's but the episodes are like 20 minutes. I was really surprised because it looks expensive.
Yeah,
they might be repurposing some stuff from like For All Mankind or something to make that. But but if we haven't seen that, that's decent too.
Yeah, For All Mankind's really cool concept. But have you seen, like, I'm curious how long Apple can keep it up, because I saw that they lost $1 billion on their productions last year, and I'm like, in the big scheme of things, that's probably like pennies for them.
Yeah, they got so much
money. Like a very tenable sort of situation that they have going on there. They're not making
yeah, I think the problem for a while was you just couldn't access their. So like they were giving it away, like a year of it away with new phones and stuff, and people still wouldn't check out their stuff. So I'm glad that Severance and some of these other shows we're talking about are finally getting some word of mouth. So
yeah. Speaking of, how did you? I saw you really liked the new season of Severance, right?
Oh yeah, that was great.
I had a few issues with it. I mean, I thought it was brilliant, but I thought comparing it to the first one, I'm afraid they're doing the Lost thing here, where they're presenting too many questions that they just don't have the resources to answer. Because I'm still not as confused as ever, but I'm also like, man, you guys haven't addressed this one thing, a lot of the things that have happened, and you're introducing this new stuff. It's like at some point you might overwrite yourself to where it's just going to be not possible to answer all these threads you got going on.
Yeah, it definitely has. Like, the more you think about it, the more it feels like they're kind of making things up as they go.
Yes.
But I think because Lost, I get what you're saying with that, because Lost, like, it started out where it felt like it was really well planned out, and then as it went, it just kind of make it up as they go. And then that last season, you might as well not even watch. You know, I like to think it ends when that bomb goes off.
Yeah. Well, because I remember it was starting to lose a little steam, and then they had the Constant episode. You remember that one with Penny, where Desmond's going back and forth to try to rectify his relationship with Penny. Such a just all-time classic episode. And then it's like it never really recovered from that. It just I remember, because so many people had theories about what was really happening. And then it ended, and you're like, yeah, everybody thought that from the beginning. Say, no, that's not what's happening. And then they're like, yeah, no, everybody guessed that already.
Yeah, and I think it was one of those situations where, like, the show got so popular that, like, writers started leaving to go do other things, and it suffered because of that. But yeah, I need to rewatch Lost. Up until that last season, I'm gonna rewatch.
I think that's a good idea. It's like Game of Thrones. I like to watch it up until the last season.
Yeah, that's a good example. Gosh, I was one of the people that watched all of Game of Thrones, like binged it all, because I was like, all right, everybody's so hyped about this last season, and I felt like I wasted my time doing that, because it just people just pooped on it the whole time, and I'm just like,
I don't know what's better or worse. Like, do you think, because I watched that from like the first episode on, and like from episode 1, I watched it weekly, and then do you think it's better? Like, it would have been better just to have binged it all and then be let down by that last season, or to just be like in on day one for years, only to just have the rug pulled out from underneath you?
I don't know. I think the strategy, if you're not sure about a show, and I've seen more people kind of take this approach because there's so much content, they're just waiting until it's done to know if they should watch it or not.
Not
and
the
so,
worst
like,
idea.
I think Better Call Saul is a perfect example of, like, it was worth the ride.
That was worth. Breaking Bad, same thing.
It's got some slow seasons in there, but it pays off.
Yeah, I think season 2 of Better Call Saul is really slow. It's mostly about his brother, like dealing with a lot with his brother stuff.
That final season is, I would say, just as good as the last season of Breaking Bad, though. It's incredible.
Yeah, just the stakes in every episode of the last season of Better Call Saul. And I was like, I couldn't, because I remember when Breaking Bad, the last season came out, everybody was just like, you got to watch this. And I'd watch an episode of Better Call Saul and go, why is no one talking about this? Like, this is incredible television here.
Well, props to AMC for seeing it through, because they definitely had some doubts early on about whether it was, like, worth it or not. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. So someone here says, I heard the F1 movie had $400 million budget. It'll probably bomb, but I think it'll be fun. I agree. I have no idea. I think it is. I think it was like a $320 to $400 million budget. So I have no idea how they make that money back. I mean, I can see that movie making like 100 domestically, maybe 300 for, well, it's, in all fairness, F1 is a lot bigger worldwide than it is here in the States. So maybe it has a chance to make, but I don't see it doing more than 300-400 million total, like worldwide. So I have no idea how they're going to make their money back on that movie, especially with the marketing. That's one of the things that I'm interested with, is that they don't really seem to be marketing the hell out of that movie. So
yeah,
I'm hopeful, because it's Joseph Kosinski who did Top Gun Maverick and, Tron Legacy and Oblivion. Like, dude's a solid director. So I have high hopes for it. I don't see how that movie makes its money back.
Yeah, I'm seeing 300 million budget, and so they at least are spending like probably 150 million on marketing for this. And was there like am I tripping out here? But wasn't it just F1 and now it's like F1 the movie?
Is that no? I think it's just F1 from what I remember.
The poster says F1 the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Are they doing the Edge of Tomorrow thing where they're changing the name right up to it?
Yeah,
that's interesting. That's an interesting movie to look back on.
Yeah, I think it's really gonna depend on how good the movie is. If it's like, everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's like the best movie of the summer, then I think it has a chance to make its money back. But otherwise, I'm not seeing the buzz that it deserves.
Yeah,
so,
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it like a week or two early. So I'm hopeful. I got one of those. Do you have those D boxes out there where you are?
Yeah.
I'm going to see it in the D box. That seems like a movie that's totally worth it for that.
I think my wife and I are going to see it in IMAX.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be fun. Then I got a thing here from one of your followers in your Discord. It says, "Hey Danny, it's Andy from your Discord server. How are you?"
I'm great, Andy. Thanks for tuning in.
That's cool, man. You got your own Discord server?
Yeah, we have for Cool Ranch Corner. We have a little community on there. Yeah, I think there's about 150 people in there now, so it's popping in there. It's a lot of fun chatting with everybody about movies and everything that's going on content wise. So
hey, man, that's the best.
Yeah,
that's the best. All right, so I wanted to cover one more thing, man, and then we can call it a day here. But so Clint Eastwood, 95, homie's making one more movie apparently.
Yeah,
he plans to direct new movie at 95, and then he shades the era of remakes and franchises. Do something new or stay at home.
Hell yeah! I 1 second. Let me. I am pissed off because I woke up and I get like notifications on my phone for like the entertainment news. I thought he died. I was like, because I just see Clint Eastwood 95 and then dot. And I'm like, did he pass? It literally made my heart drop because he's one of my favorite filmmakers.
Dude, so good. And he did so dirty by Warner Brothers with his last movie. I was
Cry Macho. That. I mean, it was fine.
It was
Jury. Yeah, that's right. Jury number 2. Both movies he kind of got done dirty. Jury number 2 was a really solid movie. I was not sure where it was going, and it was very dark. And
very interesting concept too. Like, you're in the jury for something that you committed, you didn't even know you did, but you're like, put the pieces together, and you're like, oh, I
lots of shit moments in that. It was like a modern 12 Angry Men kind of is what it reminded me of, right? Yeah, and
sure.
I just he makes character driven films, and like I've always respected that. And I mean, he writes some of the scores for his own movies and stuff. Yep. I mean, every interview I see with him, it's just like he drops so many nuggets.
Yeah, and
he'll be eating peanuts while he talks. You seen that? Yeah, just classic old man.
And he's notorious for shooting
rehearsals.
Takes. That's it. Yeah.
He'll shoot the rehearsal, and they don't even know he's filming, and then he's like, "I think we got it." Yeah, I remember. Yeah, whenever you're ready. Yeah, I think Bradley Cooper was like he told a story where he was like, hey, I mean, I didn't know we were like shooting on that one. You think we can do it again? He's like, wow, you want to waste everybody's time?
Yeah.
He's like notorious for coming under budget too, which nobody else does except like Christopher Nolan. So yeah, I like that to me is the dream right there. I want to go out making films.
I agree,
Like,
man. That's awesome. And like, see
yeah.
right here, he says, "There's no reason why a man can't get better with age." Eastwood said, and I have much more experience today. Sure, there are directors who lose their touch at a certain age, but I'm not one of them. And I'm like, dude, go for it, bro. Like,
Yeah.
listen, you 94, you put out Juror number 2. That's better than most like 30-year-olds can do. So, you know, like that's. It's a solid guy. He's a freaking legend, and I just wanted to, you know, end on that note.
Yeah, it's very inspiring to think like, oh, if I lived to 95, you know, I have another 65 years that I could make movies.
That's awesome, dude. And I mean,
Yeah.
do you have a favorite Eastwood directed movie?
Oh, I mean, probably Unforgiven. I mean, that's as good as Westerns get. Yeah, it's as good as they get, man.
So peak.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite movies he's in. I mean, one of my favorite movies of all time is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh yeah.
But I love Unforgiven. Just that movie changed the trajectory of Westerns, because, you know, Westerns were just getting so ridiculous. And then that came out and everyone was like, oh, like this is like legit, you know?
Yeah. Have you seen which one was it? The Mule? Did you watch that one?
Yeah, I watched it. Actually, solid movie.
Another solid movie, yeah, and like a cool
Solid.
concept, just playing into his age. Like the fact that he was like, you know, directing and acting at that age is just crazy.
It is.
Mystic River.
Mystic River, phenomenal.
A Perfect
$1 Million
World.
Baby.
Yeah. And then he did Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima.
Letters
and
from Iwo Jima
Invictus.
is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's got some stinkers in there too.
Yeah,
But
sure, for sure.
What
I mean,
filmmaker
he's released
doesn't?
so many movies, you know, you can't win them all. But yeah, no, he's definitely got some stinkers in there. Somebody asked, "Hey, have you ever tried mixing all the G fuels in one big cup before?"
we have done that like I think 3 or 4 times at this point. Like I people ask me to do it again, and I'm like, it's gonna taste the same at this point, you know. It's just I don't know. Yeah, basically. And I mean, look at it. I mean, you know how long it would take? Easily an hour to do that.
Yeah. Especially with all the caffeinated ones, your heart was probably like beating through your ears.
And I'm also notorious for, like, you know, my wife tries it and she's like, I can't do it. It's just too much. And I just drink the whole thing, you know, not the powder at the bottom. That would be dangerous, but
yeah. I was like, and for those who don't know, Derek is like the G Fuel ambassador, the number one ambassador. He's got it going. So, all right, Derek. Well, I appreciate you hopping on, man. I'm sure you're going to be on here ad nauseum. Good friend of the channel, as I mentioned previously. So let people know where they can find you and what you got coming up, dude.
DannyDorito23 everywhere. I mean, I'm on literally everywhere now. Facebook, Snapchat, you name it. I got this short film that I'll be directing here in 2 weeks, and I'm going to try and get that out as soon as I can. I'm also editing it, so I feel like I honestly have like a lot of control over the timeline. So
Cool.
I'm going to do a little festival run with that one, not as long as Pollo Loco, but yeah, I'm really excited to bring that one to life. We're using Strange Darling as our inspiration for like the color palette and stuff.
Very cool. Very
yeah,
cool. It'd be
really
awesome
excited.
if you could secure Giovanni Ribisi as your DP.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. Are you on Cameo?
I am, but I you know, I've had a couple like on there, and then it's like, I don't know, it's a weird thing to me that somebody would
weird.
like
Right.
I
exploitative, like a little bit.
I have a Discord tier that includes like a free like video that I, you know, so I've had people reach out and go, hey, it's my friend's birthday or it's my birthday, and I'll do a little video for them. But yeah.
Well, awesome, brother. Well, Derek, I can't thank you enough.
Pleasure being here.
Yeah. Always a good chat. Fun stuff that we talked about today. So yeah, go when you're out there, go ahead and follow Derek at DannyDorito23. I'm sure he'll be on in the next couple months, give us an update on things. We'll talk some more movies, but appreciate you guys watching, and make sure you tune in next Sunday. Should have a pretty cool guest pending right now. Derek knows how these things go. Sometimes things change last second. So yeah. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week.